Hi, Karen Curry Parker here with your December Quantum Human Design Evolution Report. I always like to tell people, we have a tendency to, at the end of December, the end of the year, set our intentions and get ready for the new year and set our goals and make our resolutions. I think people should stop doing that because we miss, first of all, the importance and the beauty and the power that is always woven into the energy that is December. And really, the new year doesn't start with great energy. It's almost as if the beginning of the year sets us up to start failing from the start. So, with that in mind, I want to just share with you before I tell you a little bit about December that on December 30th on Facebook, I'm going to be hosting a live event. And in this live event, I'm going to give you an overview of 2024, what to expect next year so that you can start getting ready and not setting yourself up to fail from the start for a year that promises to be pretty interesting, pretty potentially disruptive, a year that I believe really can be a great opening to our expansion, but a year that's going to force our hand, that's going to make us have to get relentlessly honest and relentlessly resilient because we're going to have to pivot, reinvent, and pivot again next year, looking at the transits ahead. All right, so join me. You can go to our Facebook page, Karen Curry Parker, and sign up for our free event so that you'll have all the details you need to log in, to watch, and to be a part of this preview that we're going to be bringing you. All right, December. So as I said, December is a beautiful month because woven into the transits in December, we have the theme of love, we have the theme of joy, and we have the theme of connecting more deeply to spirit and compassion. And so I think it's not really an accident that we have beautiful holidays in December. We have Kwanzaa, we have Christmas, we have Hanukkah, and all of these holidays are about bringing in the light. And light, is really the power the energy that powers our design. We are literally powered by light. Your nervous system is powered by photons. Photons spark initiations in your brain. Photons are an essential part of our creativity. What's so beautiful about the energy of December is it gives us an opportunity to really contemplate, how do we channel the light? How do we direct the flow of light so that we can create more joy? Now, joy in human design isn't about emotions. It's not actually an emotional energy. It's what I like to call a driver energy in the chart. It's an energy that gives us the impetus, the drive, the motivation, the energy to keep pushing towards something, to keep practicing something, repeating it, correcting it, practicing, repeating it, correcting it, because we are so in love with the process, with the end result, with the journey. We are steering ourselves with such deliberation and intention towards something that brings us joy, that joy promises to anchor us in momentum, to anchor us in endurance, to anchor us in the capacity to keep reconfiguring, realigning, keep refocusing ourselves back on the direction in which we're intending. That is, to me, the root of resilience, right? It's that ability to walk into something that is probably a stretch for you, that is a goal or an intention or a dream that, if you actually fulfilled it, would force you to have to let go of the patterns of the past, that would force you to have to take a leap of faith, because whatever it is that you're moving towards is so big that there's no way you can figure out with your little human brain how you're going to make it happen. It's something that has to be juicy enough that even when it's hard, even when we get eyeball to eyeball with the monster that is resistance, we find that spark of joy, and it gives us the zest. It gives us the capacity to push through all those limitations, all those old stories, all those places where we think we can't, all those places where we're tempted to chill and watch Netflix all day instead of doing the thing we're supposed to be doing. It gives us that capacity to keep moving forward. So December, really, if I was going to give you one theme for this month, it really is a month that brings us the theme of joy. And of course, encoded in the celestial weather are aspects or key things we need to be mindful of in order to harness and tap into higher states of joy. So the first thing we'll start with is looking at the nodes. The south node is in the gate 42, the gate of conclusion. The north node highlights the gate 32, the gate of endurance. And so we are continuing with this theme this month, this overarching plot outline, if you will, that is inviting us to look at, what do we need to clean up? What do we need to get rid of? What do we need to release? What do we need to untangle ourselves from? What forgotten things have we put in the back of the closet? What things have we stuck on the back burner that we said, oh, I'll do that later? But those things that we thought we'd get to and take care of later, we didn't actually do. And now those hidden things are taking up space, right? Those difficult conversations are not happening. That act of making room for what you really want hasn't been happening. And so the nodes are saying, hey, if you want to be ready, if you want to prepare for what's ahead, if you really want to set your course towards joy, towards something that's really worthy of the story that you were born to fulfill, well, then you got to do some housekeeping, right? You've got to take stock of, where is there wasted space? Where is there wasted energy? Where are things stuck and gummed up because in the shadows, you haven't really looked at it. You said you would, but you didn't, but now it's time. So this is our overarching directive for this month, right? What do we need to clean up? What do we need to do to make room? What do we need to do to strengthen our endurance? Because here's the deal. If part of your energy is stuck on that stuff that you've been ignoring, that you think isn't actually taking up space, but it actually is. If we haven't been paying attention to that, it's draining, right? And so when we start thinking about enduring takes energy. It takes strength, right? It takes training. It takes preparation. And if part of our energy is occupied with this hidden stuff or this unfinished stuff, we can't cultivate the energy we really need to keep moving towards what we really want. And so even though it's not technically spring, at least here where I live in Wisconsin, maybe it's spring where some of you are in Australia or South America, it is sort of a metaphorical spring cleaning. And that spring cleaning this month is highlighted with two opportunities to really get solid and contemplate what do we need to clean up. So our first opportunity for cleaning up comes on December 13th, where we have our final Mercury retrograde of the year. Now, remember, retrograde cycles are not when planets actually go backwards. They don't, but they're cycles where we get an opportunity to go inward. They're an opportunity for us to really, take a pause, take a breath. And certainly when Mercury goes retrograde, we're invited to go inward and explore our language, our communication, our relationships. We are invited to explore whether we're being honest and authentic in how we are expressing ourselves in the world. This Mercury retrograde cycle lasts until January 1, so taking us into the new year, 2024, and how apropos that 2024 already starts on a retrograde, right? On a Mercury retrograde. That's just the beginning. Trust me, come to my event on January 30th. You're going to learn all about 2024. And I promise you, I will give you some strategies so that you won't spend the first half of the year hiding under the bed. Okay, this Mercury retrograde cycle highlights the gate 44, the gate 1, the gate 43, the gate 14, and the gate 34. Okay, so the 44 is the gate of truth, the gate 1, the gate of purpose, the gate 43, the gate of insight, the gate 14, the gate of creation, and the gate 34, the gate of power in quantum human design. Now, I think it's important to note that the 44 is a place where we store old patterns. It's a place where we store patterns, and oftentimes the fear that we have associated with this gate, and by the way, when we're talking about the transits, you don't have to have this in your chart defined, okay? This is gonna affect all of us. This is personal themes and collective themes that are floating around in the celestial weather. So even if you're like, I don't have that gate, well, you do have it. If you have it undefined, you still have it. You just have it undefined. That means you experience it in a highly variable way, but you have it. And if it's highlighted by the planets, then it gives you that experience in your openness. And if you have it defined, it means you're going to be dealing with this theme and everybody else around you, and you're going to be potentially butting heads with people with this theme. So we all get to deal with these themes. So the gate 44 is a place where we hold the fear that the patterns of the past will repeat themselves. This is a place where we actually store trauma. Now, it's interesting to note, I just actually read a research study this week that scientists now know, brain scientists now know, that the place in the brain that gets activated when we experience trauma is the place in the brain that's associated with present time. And so we can experience a trauma in the past, right? But our brain keeps re-experiencing it in present time, which is why we get PTSD or we develop patterns to protect ourselves, because we don't remember, our body and our brain doesn't realize, hey, that's not happening anymore. And so part of what we have to do to untangle ourselves from that illusion of present time experience of a trauma that happened in the past is we have to replace that old story with something better, with a new story, with a new narrative. And certainly the other gates in this Mercury retrograde cycle give us a really good opportunity to explore our personal story about trauma, about pain, about patterns of the past. And what's so beautiful is that when we look at where this energy lives in the chart, it's an energy that actually points towards integrity. Now, integrity in quantum human design isn't about just morality. It's about being in alignment, being in full alignment with who you are, being aligned with your authentic self. And so when we untangle ourselves from the patterns of the past, we restore our integrity, and that integrity deeply connects us with our purpose, our right place in the world, and our value in the world. And so to heal that relationship with this Mercury retrograde cycle, we are being invited to explore our individuality, our natural human story, that unique, irreplaceable, vital part of the cosmic plan that is you, that only you can fulfill. That's the nature of the gate 1. The gate 43 is about reframing our thinking so that our thinking and our story is more in line with our natural true purpose, who we are in the world. This impacts the way we make money. It impacts our sense of power. All of these energies are in what's called the individual or the mutative circuitry, meaning Mercury is saying, hey, hold up, guys. We need to make some changes. You've been telling a story of less than. You've been telling a story that hasn't been necessarily authentic about who you are and how you are in the world. And that old story has been keeping you stuck in a time warp where you think you got to protect yourself when you're actually safe, where you think you have to compromise who you are when you actually don't, where you are afraid that something that's happened in the past is going to repeat itself, but it's not. And so what we need to do to strengthen our capacity for momentum and land us solidly in the beginning of 2024 is we've got to rewrite the story of who we are. And oftentimes that means we got to clear all that stuff. It's back to this clearing metaphor, right? All that stuff, all those old stories, all those old circumstances, all those old narratives that are keeping you from remembering that you came here for a reason. And that reason is so important that literally the cosmos exists as it exists today because you're in it. And if you're not fulfilling that role, you're not just impacting you, you're impacting the entire world, right? And so you are being invited by Mercury to take a step back and ask yourselves, is the person that I'm communicating, sharing, expressing to the world actually the person that I am? Am I hiding? Am I being less than authentic? Am I buying into the conditioned idea that if I am who I am, I can't be loved, I can't be accepted, I can't be valued, I can't make money in the world, I can't be successful in the world? That's a lie, by the way. None of those things are true. In fact, the opposite is true. You're being invited to explore, where do you need to perhaps craft for yourself a bigger, better story, something that brings you so much joy to fulfill that you're willing to bust through the fear to get to the other side, that you're willing to realign yourself, to take a risk, to take a quantum leap, if you will, into being relentlessly, radically authentic in every area of your life, including your relationships, especially I would say your relationships, because certainly this month is all about relationship and relationship energy. And certainly, it's a time when, given the holiday season and everything else that's happening at the end of this year, we have to ask ourselves, when we show up for family, when we show up for wherever we end up showing up this month, are we being true to ourselves? Are we setting good boundaries? Are we being self-honoring? Is the environment that we're placing ourselves in worthy of who we are? And certainly when we move into the solstice this year on December the 21st, where the sun highlights the gate 10, the gate of self-love, the earth grounds us in compassion. And when we're dealing with all these energies at this solstice intersection that are all about being in integrity with the self, we are being shown by the planets that the code to creating peace in your relationships is to start first by being in a good relationship with yourself, to not compromise who you are, to value who you are, to love yourself. Because when your cup is full, when you feel as if you are enough, when you love yourself, you kind of get immune to all the drama, right? You get immune to all the chaos. You have nothing to prove. You already know you're enough. So you don't have to walk into the family home and put on that swagger and try to be something you're not, or try to hide who you are because you don't feel safe. It gives you the strength, the endurance, the capacity to be in environments that maybe are not optimal. Maybe you wouldn't choose to be with your family on a daily basis. Maybe these are people you only want to visit once or twice a year. You can be in those environments and not lose yourself. You can be in those environments and be strengthened in your own authentic self-expression. And you don't have to compromise who you are, and you don't have to go to the mat trying to prove your value or your worth, because you already got it internally. And the quality of peace that can create is unparalleled. To be able to walk into those old patterns, that's that gate 44 energy, right? To walk into those old patterns and know that nothing that can happen in that environment can threaten you anymore, can cause you to feel like you have to compromise in any way, shape, or form who you are or how you are. That to me is the root of love, by the way. When you can walk into that environment, not only do you walk in with your self-love intact, you can better love other people, because now there's no expectations that are external to you, right? And now you can genuinely see people better for who they are and love them better for who they are and where they are. So as we move in, by the way, the implication is that sometimes going home to your family and those old dynamics can be challenging. I also don't want to imply that everybody has a challenging family relationship or family life. Sometimes it just means that, walking in with these energies intact brings you a greater depth of joy, a greater depth of connection, a greater capacity for compassion and love. And it can be really good without having to, put on that Teflon coat and go in. The best way to get to that place of peace, that place of joy in all of your relationships, even your relationship with yourself, is to learn to love yourself. And that means you have to start first with being really honest about who you are and how you are, and celebrating that. And that is certainly our big challenge for this entire month. So maybe when we go back to the theme of, well, what do we need to clean up? Maybe part of what we need to clean up is our personal story. Maybe we need to clean up this month any place where you have integrated and internalized the message that it's not okay for you to be who you are or how you are, and flip that story around, because absolutely it's not just okay, it's important. The world is depending on you. The entire fabric of the cosmos is depending on you to be relentlessly and courageously authentic. That's my message for you this month. Again, join me December 30th on Facebook. We'll be doing a live event looking at the 2024 transits, what's ahead. I'm going to break down all the nodal cycles. We're going to look at Saturn and Jupiter. We're going to look at all the outer planets. We're going to look at the Mercury retrograde cycles and what you need to know to be ready for 2024. Have a great month.